if you're this incompetent, if you're this useless, why are you anywhere near government assets? Why have we given our powers to you to manage our affairs? We're sitting on $48 billion and you're complaining about 600 million. Incredible. Okay? Now we are saying that we are sitting on $48 billion of raw materials. We are talking about an industry which potentially can become the backbone of our industrialization project and so on. And we are throwing our arms in despair and saying that, oh, you need an individual. A company is an individual, I suppose, you know, to come and give us $600 million and take 70% of the company. Are you crazy? Moro, are you crazy? Unbelievable. But this is the argument you are making.
Whenever I say my PENDREAM TV there, I see them, you
Okay, see, you seem to have a lot of information as far as Valco is concerned. I mean, share with us why, first of all, this whole matter has come up again. You know, about what to do with Valco. We seem to be confused because government wants something, workers want something else. What's your take on this story?
Well, I mean, first of all, it is not true, cannot be true, that the country doesn't have a plan which would ensure the viability of Valco. That's a false statement. Anybody who says that we don't know what to do is deliberately lying. We know what to do. Okay. Because if you go as far back as the Nkrumah era, if you look at the 7-year development plan of Nkrumah and so on, the plan for Valco is clear. The plan to ensure that Valco will become not just a viable entity, but also the bedrock on which Ghana's industrialization will sit. It's clear. There's no doubt at all about it. There's a plan. Anybody suggesting that there's no plan is either deliberately trying to confuse the public, or is up to some mischief.
Or is ignorant.
Well, if you're talking about Valco, if you're involved in Valco and so on, you must know that there's a plan.
Fair point.
You understand?
Fair point.
So for those who claim to be involved in Valco, especially at the governmental level, if they claim ignorance of the history of Valco, that would be most unfortunate. That's a plan. Now, there's no doubt at all that Nkrumah envisaged that it is only at the point of a fully integrated aluminium industry that Valco can begin to make economic sense, can begin to impact on the industrialization program and so on, fully integrated aluminium industry. That's clear. Okay. So, that is clear. Now, the other thing which for me is most important is that this country is sitting on the raw material, bauxite. We are sitting on bauxite, raw material, untouched, valued at $48 billion.
That's huge.
Now, isn't it very, very strange that we are sitting on $48 billion and we are complaining that we don't have $6 million?
600 million.
600 million.
Yeah, $600 million. Fantastic. Thanks for the correction.
Yeah.
But very strange. We are sitting on $48 billion. It's in your soil. And you are complaining that, oh, we need 600 million, we can't find it. What's wrong with you? I mean, if you are this incompetent, excuse me, if you are this incompetent, If you're this useless, why are you anywhere near government assets? Why have we given our powers to you to manage our affairs? We're sitting on $48 billion and you're complaining about 600 million. Incredible. Okay? Now you're saying that we are sitting on $48 billion of raw materials. We are talking about an industry which potentially can become the backbone of our industrialization project and so on. And we are throwing our arms in despair and saying that, oh, you need an individual. A company is an individual, I suppose, you know, to come and give us $600 million and take 70% of the company. Are you crazy? Moro, are you crazy? Unbelievable. But this is the argument we are making. And then sometimes we create the impression that this is an ideological debate. There's no ideological debate. It is about common sense. Simple common sense. You understand? Now, you need $600 million in order to make Valco run and so on. That's what you need. Who says that the only means of generating $600 million is by giving 70% of the company to somebody, some company? You know, you have been a banker, you know. You can actually, on the basis of the viability of the enterprise, go to a bank.
And make a case.
Make a case and get $600 million, which would enable you to retrofit, buy equipment and so on, and you pay it as a loan. The Bank of Financial Institutions doesn't have to have shares in Valco to make you generate $600 million.
They will happily give you the money.
It is viable. The banks and financial institutions deal on the viability of the project.
Yeah.
Why? We know that we are sitting on $48 billion. What deal can't you make with a financial institution or a bank or something in order to save Valco? Why should you have to sell 70% of Valco to be able to generate 600 million? Peanuts compared to what we are sitting on. It doesn't make any sense at all. Sometimes I'm lost. Sometimes I wonder how public officials think. Well, sometimes I actually wonder whether they do any thinking at all. So this is the reality. Okay? Now, Moro. You see, the Valco project was so well thought out. And every step that has to be taken has already clearly been defined. You don't have to start thinking and so on. In fact, I got very highly interested in the Valco project when I had conversations with Mr. Atuahoy. He's been working on this integrated aluminum industry over a long period of time and has a clear understanding of what the industry needs to survive and so on. So I've had some conversations with him. I've also had some conversations with Professor Akila Kwasoya, who happened to have been the chair of the Volta River Authority at the time when there were problems with power supply, you know, for the industry and so on. And it is clear that this is a viable project which we can run as Ghana. And we don't need any 70% shareholder to come and give us 600 million to run it. It doesn't make any sense at all. But Moro, look, since 1996, especially after 1982-83, we've made this argument that private sector involvement in the running of state enterprises is key to their survival. We've made that argument very strongly. Over the period, we privatized 400 state enterprises. More than 400 state enterprises were privatized. How many survived after privatization? How many? Can you count 6 who survived after privatization out of 400? So our history and experience shows us that privatization is not necessarily a panacea for reviving state enterprises and making state enterprises play the role that they ought to play in the economy. I'll give you one example. You see, we privatized the Tema shipyard and dry dock. And I recall when President Mills became president of Ghana, the shipyard and dry dock was getting destroyed after privatization. And he was so alarmed that eventually President Mills had to take back the Tema shipyard and dry dock because privatization was killing it. That's one example. Go and check. The facts are available. You understand? We privatized Tema shipyard and dry dock under the same conditions, using the same useless arguments. President Mills had to take it back. You understand what I'm saying? So the history of privatization does not support this new level of recklessness that is leading us to the privatization of vital state assets. The history is against it. You understand? Now, recently, under President John Dramani Mahama, before President John Dramani Mahama was elected as president, in the last elections, Tema Oil Refinery, the sing-song was that it should be privatized. Privatization is the only way out. You need a strategic investor. You remember?
Yes.
After less than 2 years of the Mahama administration, the Tema Oil Refinery has been revamped and is doing excessively well. It's recording profits. It has started refining Ghana's own oil and so on. The record of the Tema Oil Refinery, still in the hands of the state, in spite of all the sing-song about privatizing it and so on, should serve as an example and a model for Valco. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Look, we were jumping over ourselves about privatization of ECG and so on. In the last 18 months, 19 months of the Mahama administration, look at the figures in ECG. He knows better than me. The situation in ECG is improving. They are beginning to pay their debts and so on through worker participation in management. That whole argument about privatizing ECG is dying. Don't let us take that silly argument to Valco. It will work. It has never worked. There's no sign that it's going to work. If you sit on $48 billion of raw materials and you begin to throw your hands in the air and so on, you are simply incompetent. You have no vision. You understand what I'm saying? So it's clear. There are a few things that worry me about Valco. And I'm saying this for the first time. I recall that when President Mills assumed office, he was told that Ghana had bought back Valco from Kaiser Aluminium.
Yes.
So President Mills was looking for the papers on the sale or the repurchase of Valco or the purchase of Valco.
The transaction.
The transaction.
Yeah, documents surrounding the transaction.
He couldn't find it.
Shocking.
He couldn't find one piece of paper.
How?
I'm telling you, you can check. President Mills couldn't find one piece of paper which affirmed that we had bought back Valco.
See.
And I'm going to say something publicly. Now, I'm going to say something publicly. I knew that Charles Mensah, of the IEA,
Yes.
was at the center of the negotiations and so on. And he had been Valco chairman for a very long time. So I approached Charles. I said, Charles, what is happening? I am told, I have information, that there's not a sheet of paper confirming that we have purchased Valco. You, as chairman of Valco, and you, as somebody who was involved in this negotiation, must have some idea about where the documentation is. You know what he told me? And Charles is still alive. He's probably even watching the show. What he told me that the documents were available in a law firm in London.
What?
Yes.
What's the document doing in London?
How would I know?
Wow.
How would I know? So if you run state enterprises this way, how do you expect them to strive and survive? So you deliberately run them aground and you deliberately turn around to come and buy it and own it and destroy it, strip it apart and destroy it, you know, and have no regard for the national, you know, interest. Look, all economists, from the right and from the left, agree on one thing. Neo-colonial economists like Ghana's can only make movements forward from industrialization. The sale of primary products and so on is taking us nowhere. We all agree on it. Now, the basis of industrialization, the foundation of industrialization is also being attacked and destroyed. So where does that leave us? Where does that leave us? You understand? So look, I am in full sympathy, not partial, full sympathy with the Public Utility Workers Union, with all the trade union movements which are expressing opposition to privatization. Their cause is legitimate, their cause is in the national interest, and we better listen to them. Because they've seen it all. Look, Massa, in 1983, 300,000 workers, and watch the figure, 300,000 workers lost their jobs as a result of the government embarking on the reckless path of neoliberalism. 300,000 workers lost their jobs. What does that mean for the trade unions? What does that mean for the trade unions? What does that do for the national economy? So 300,000 workers lost their jobs because we decided to embark on this reckless path. My brother, you know, one of the major problems that Valco faces has to do with the supply of power. He knows that better than me. One of the major problems that Valco faces has to do with the supply of power. We have been depending on hydro, you know, to supply Valco with electricity. One, because hydro is relatively very cheap. The cost of generating hydro is about 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt hour. 2 to 3 cents.
Kilowatt hour, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you shift to thermal generation, the cost now is between 10 to about 50 cents.
Yes.
10 to about 50 cents, depending on how you do it and so on. Okay. So hydro was relatively cheaper, and it made a lot of sense to depend on hydro for high-consuming industries and so on. It made a lot of sense. But right now, as we speak, the Western countries are up in arms against the generation of power with coal.
Right.
But we know that the Chinese have developed a technology which is called clean coal.
Yeah.
Much, much cheaper, environmentally friendly, and so on. So if we have a problem with supplying the bauxite industry with power, why are we not looking at clean coal?
Right.
The clean coal technology which has been developed by China.
Yeah.
Why are we still fixated on thermal generation of power? Why are we still fixated even on the hydro generation of power, saying that, look, we don't have enough power for Valco and so on? Why are we not beginning to look at clean coal as an alternative?
Yeah.
So, you see, Massa, you know, sometimes you just get tired going over these things year after year, year after year, year after year, and policymakers are still not thinking. You get worried. Why are policymakers still not thinking?
Yeah.
Why are they always looking for the easy way out? Sell, 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 sell. And we've sold 400 to 500 state enterprises and destroyed all of them. The only few that survived, Movenpick Ambassador. Alright, tell me. Even Movenpick Ambassador collapsed. It had to take some efforts, you know, in the third NDC government to revive it. You know, using some Arab funds and so on. Golden Tulip.
Yeah.
How did Golden Tulip survive? Now here it's called Lancaster. So how did it survive? It survived because the Libyans came and used state money and state power, took it over and ran it.
Yeah.
The Libyans that we sold to the Libyan government. And they came and saved Golden Tulip, which is now Lancaster. Which other ones survived?
Yeah.
Everyone that has survived, the history is there. And we are still misbehaving, you know, we are still destroying the base of the national economy and so on. There are some things that I feel so very strongly about. This seizure of Valco lands and the establishment of an industrial park. What does it mean? So if you want to establish an industrial park, you can't get any land in Ghana. The only land you can get is the Valco land,
Right.
which has been acquired for a specific purpose, which is still relevant to our national development effort. That is the one you go and acquire and you establish an industrial park. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Master, I am tired, and I'm not the only one who is tired. So many people are tired, saying the same things over and over and over and over again, and nobody listens. Look, as for this allegation that Ibrahim Mahama is involved in so on, it's a ruse, okay? I am not surprised. Look, for a long period of time, people wanting to, you know, attack the president, people wanting to create the impression that the president is involved in some nepotistic, you know, enterprise and so on, would always attack Ibrahim Mahama. Ibrahim Mahama has become the fall guy and so on. I'm sure he's keenly aware of it, you know, and I'm sure that he's not worried about it, and the facts will speak for itself. I mean, recently when he acquired this gold mine, he saw the hula balloon which was generated. It turned out that his bid was actually approved by the Akufo-Addo government and not the Mahama government and so on. That's a fact. In fact, Abu Jinapo, who was then Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, had to come up and say, oh, it was during my tenure and so on. But he will continue to be the fall guy all the time. That's the cross he has to carry. And he has to develop thick shoulders to be able to carry that cross. Yeah. You can't have your brother as president and not suffer any consequence at all, especially in the politics of a country like Ghana. You will continue to suffer some consequences. So Ibrahim should continue to carry his cross.
My guest is still here, Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who's a former managing editor of the Inside newspaper, and also Collins Adomako Mensah. He is MP for the Fija-Kwabre North constituency and also a former deputy energy minister. Now, yesterday I told you, not yesterday, just this morning, at the early hours of this morning, we experienced some power outages. It was almost nationwide. And GRIDCO actually issued a statement to explain exactly what happened. So we've been working the lines to get through to them to throw some more light or to shed some more light on the statement that they've issued. Unfortunately for us, a very good friend of mine was also with the Corporate Affairs Department of GRIDCO, Jifa Bampo. She's once a journalist, always a journalist. She's joined us on some phone to talk to us briefly about what exactly happened. And I want to believe that they have uncovered a bit more, since the time that he issued the statement. Jifa, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on Good Morning Ghana.
Good morning, Moro. Good morning to your guests in the studio and to all your viewers.
I hope you're doing very well.
I'm fine. Thank you for asking.
It's been a very busy morning, isn't it? What have you been up to?
Oh, just trying to address this incident that occurred earlier at dawn.
And I can appreciate the pressure.
We're on it. It's part of the work, so
Right.
we're on it.
Right. So what exactly happened? I mean, you've given us some idea, but what have you been uncovering since the issuing of this statement, which must have been around 6 a.m. thereabout? What else have you been uncovering?
So at 3:11 a.m. today, we had a system disturbance, and this led to a widespread outage across the country. So engineers have been working in the time since in an effort to restore power. So it's not just about transmission restoring power. We have to bring up the generating stations on stream, connect to them, and then do the bulk supply of power to ECG for onward distribution to consumers, domestics, businesses. So currently the work ongoing, which has been ongoing since the early dawn, has been to get the generating systems online so that we can transmit power, which is our mandate.
How badly damaged is this system we're talking about?
There is no damage.
Okay.
This is just a rare incident that has occurred. And because it is an unusual incident in the power system, it has to be investigated.
Right.
So simultaneously, as efforts are made to restore power, the investigations are ongoing. And so we'll have to be patient for that. But we sincerely apologize to the public for this incident that has occurred. We urge patience as we work to restore power, together with all the stakeholders in the power value chain. As soon as we are able to do that, power will be restored, and it's ongoing. I know some load had been picked from the Akunsubo Dam, but it will take us some time, and we will update the public as soon as we have more available information.
How far-reaching or widespread was this adverse effect?
I don't want to be specific in terms of the areas because I am not in the system control center, but it's been widespread enough to gain the needed response for us to issue a statement to inform the public that the reason there's this outage is because of this unusual event or incident. It's not typically the norm.
But what you can confirm, though, that this was nationwide?
Widespread, beyond Accra, certainly. Because we operate more than 7,000 kilometers of transmission lines. We have about 68 substations across the country. Many of them obviously are interconnected. That's why it's called the National Interconnected Transmission System, NITS. In simple terms, the national grid. And so if there is a major incident that impacts the grid, the fallout will be widespread. So that's what it is.
How regularly do you intend to keep us posted on what you've been doing thus far?
As soon as I have more information, we will share an updated press release. The purpose for the earlier press release at 6 a.m. was to try and as quickly as possible inform the public, because this happened at about 3:11 a.m. So we didn't want this to go beyond the time that people are leaving for work and the like. And that's why we worked quickly to try and put something out. Once there's additional updates, we'll provide it. But the engineers are working very, very hard to restore the system. We are genuinely sensitive to the needs of the country in terms or in respect of power. And so we are working hard to get the power supply up and running.
Do you smell sabotage?
No, sir. There is no sabotage anywhere, please. This is just an unusual incident. It is rare for us to have this kind of system disturbance that causes a widespread impact. So please, no sabotage, no rationing, none of those.
Is the BNI, the National Security, involved in the investigations, or this is just strictly a Grid Co matter?
I'm not able to speak to that specifically at this time.
Okay. All right. I guess that Collins and Kwesi, is there any questions you have for Jifa, because she has to leave us? Okay. Guess. Okay, all right.
My classmate.
Collins says greetings to you. Collins,
Yes, we are
comment.
classmates.
Oh yeah, he tells me, he says you're classmates. And
So
that's
good morning, Honorable.
yes. He says hello back.
Yes,
And also
good morning to the other guest as
yes,
well.
Uncle Kwesi.
The other guest, Jifa.
Yes.
Uncle Kwesi.
Uncle, that's Uncle Kwesi. That's Uncle Kwesi Pratt in the background.
I didn't know it was Uncle. I didn't hear that.
Jifa, the other guest.
Oh, Uncle Kwesi, please. I didn't know it. I didn't know who else was in the studio.
I know.
I'm not watching the TV.
Yes. All right. It says you've been forgiven, so that's fine. We're good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jifa, thank you so very much and have a good day.
Will update us.
Well, good morning to yourself and to my Uncle Kwesi.
Yes.
And to our viewers. I mean, when it happens like that, you can imagine what the minister and his team
are going through, eh?
will be going through. I recall during my days at the ministry, we had a platform and each morning we updated as to how much generation capacity we have and all that. And immediately I get up in the morning. I mean, when I pick my phone, I'm just praying that the data will be a favorable data, and that we don't have any load shedding and all that. It's a very difficult morning all the time as a minister, and to wake up in the morning and to be told that almost the entire country has gone off because of a major fault at Gridco. You can imagine what the minister and his team will be going through. And it's happened at 3. It's almost 8 p.m. 8 a.m. now, yes. Which means for the past 5 hours, they are still working. That should be, I'm just hoping that it's not a very, very, very major issue. Because Gridco normally would take less than an hour or two to fix their system, to bring it back to normalcy. It's been 5 hours. And they've not been able to turn things around.
Means that there's cause for concern.
That's the point I'm making. After 5 hours, everybody should be a little bit concerned.
Well, in fact, we're working the lines to get through to the Gridco PRO to just speak to us briefly.
I'm not too sure if at this particular point in time,
to speak to the media.
He'll be briefed with all the facts to speak to the media. I'm sure by now, everybody, all hands on deck now to ensure that they bring the system back. It's not very normal with Gridco. Yes, we can have some trips here and there. I've been to the Tema substation that you're talking about, the interconnected station. One as a minister and also as a member of the energy committee, we had a visit to the place. And I can tell you, these are very, very dedicated Ghanaians. Very, very intelligent engineers. Look at what happened at Akosombo. The fire that gutted the Akosombo station. Within a week or two, they've been able to bring back all the 1,000 megawatts. So they are very serious and very dedicated. Last time I went there, I told them that there are things they do that most Ghanaians don't see. But these are people who stay up all night just to keep our industries working, just to keep our offices running and all that. So they are heroes in their own right. And I think one of the statements has indicated that they are working. I just hope that everything will be brought to a close very soon. 5 hours for Gridco is quite strange. But we must understand that these are machines. Anything could happen. I'm not too sure anybody anticipated such a trip. But they have their protocols whenever there's this kind of issue. And I'm sure they, by now, as the statement said, they've activated those ones. The only concern, as I said, is the 5 hours, which is not very normal with Gridco, because they normally would have kicked in their alternate solution. So let's hope that things will be brought back before it gets out of hand. 5 hours is quite a long time.
But it also speaks to how vulnerable we are when it comes to electricity provision. How vulnerable, like anything can happen.
Well, I'm not too sure. I'll prefer to use the word vulnerable. This can happen to even in an advanced country.
Advanced countries, yeah.
You can have such major incidents, Bidco over the years have demonstrated very high competence, and I can attest
despite
to that.
the underfunding.
Yes, despite their many challenges. Very dedicated engineers, very well trained Ghanaians, and they've managed the system all this while. I don't think we should be too hard on them on this particular incident. As I said, I'm not too sure they anticipated this, and I am of the firm opinion that in the shortest possible time, they should be able to bring all of us back, especially when people are now getting up to go to work, industries are now beginning to work and all that. When the lights goes off, it has its own implications. This one, I'm sure there's a barber somewhere in my constituency.
The newspapers, of course. The newsstands,
yes,
the newspapers couldn't work, so most of them are not how they understand.
I'm sure there are some hairdressers somewhere.
Yes.
There are some cold store owners somewhere who, for this unfortunate incident, will have to resort to other means to power their.
And if you're driving an EV and you're hoping to charge it for a certain number of hours, you can't use the car.
As you know, most of the generators too are powered by diesel, and the current prices on the diesel
is a bit high,
and the pump too is a little bit high. So obviously, it's going to cause some frustration amongst the general public. But let's keep them in our prayers. They are heroes. I always call them heroes, and I'm sure they'll do the needful.
Dedi kama mamena PENDREAM TV ase. Na so far so good. Say open online portal e wo Ghana. Nipa share, nipa follow, nipa comment here. To my best of knowledge, without any biases, PENDREAM TV.